Hey, I'm Sarah, and you're listening to She's Doing All Right. This is a place for advice, encouragement, and personal stories for women in all stages of life. Whether you're figuring out your career, dealing with mental health, or experiencing postpartum and motherhood, this is a space for you to be recognized. There's so much to compare ourselves to, and it can be really hard navigating it all. So I'm here to remind you that while the goal is to be thriving, it's okay if we are just doing all right for now. Thanks for being here, and without further ado, let's get into it. I went to title this episode when I was taking notes, and all I wrote down was Life After Postpartum Depression, The Exorcism. I know that there was more to that sentence. It wasn't supposed to end there. I don't know what it was supposed to be, and honestly, it kind of feels fitting. So today's episode, I have kind of planned to talk a little bit about things that are relevant and that are different now that I feel like the depression is sort of leaving my body. Granted, I haven't been undiagnosed by my therapist yet, so we should maybe wait until I talk to her and then we'll go from there. But physically and emotionally and spiritually and mentally, I can say I feel 98% better than I did 2 years ago. So jumping in, I wanted to say that the one thing really helping my postpartum depression right now seems to be reality TV, specifically Summer House. I've never watched this show before. It's no Vanderpump Rules. But it is it's very nice watching somebody else's life be so dramatic. And it's because they're partying every weekend in the Hamptons. That's the worst of their life, as what it shows up on TV anyway. It's fun, it's light. I plug a headphone in and I just let myself live. And my kids watch their show or we play blocks together. I'm not even really watching it. It's just a nice distraction. And I appreciate it. The other thing is that today my son was watching Beauty and the Beast, one of his favorites, and we have always danced together when the songs come on. And then today I was looking for a recipe and he was watching his show and he runs over to me in the kitchen and he says, "Do you want to dance?" And I said, "Sure." Not really sure what he was asking about. So I start dancing with him and then I realized, and this is because I had my headphone in, so I was not really paying attention, but I realized that the Tale as Old as Time song was playing on Beauty and the Beast, and he wanted to dance with me, and it was so cute. He's 3.5, and that was really sweet. I thought that was a very interesting thing to happen today because many years ago, when he was 6 months, 8 months old, whatever, he was crying in his crib. I walked in just feeling so defeated, and I just didn't want to be there at all. And I walked into his room to pick him up and he just stopped crying instantly and looked at me and gave me the biggest smile in the world. It was so cute, but in the moment I felt nothing. And I remember the thought coming in my head saying, even a kid's smile isn't worth it, and that's supposed to always be worth it. And that's when I was like, ooh, that's dark, we should go get some help. Back to the whole thing of postpartum depression and life after postpartum depression, the exorcism. My notes here, I wrote depression is kind of like being possessed because you're not yourself. Whether you've had seasonal depression or if you struggled with depression in a general basis, or if you've had specifically postpartum depression, you're not yourself. You don't feel normal. And that goes for anxiety, that goes for rage, for whatever else is out there. Our brains are just taken over by something and we have no control. And I think that is the scariest part, is that it feels like we have no control. What I have learned is we have more control than we think, but we can't do it alone. And we're going to get into all of that. So one of the reasons that this all came up into my head as a topic was because last week I was saying something about how, to my husband, I was saying something can you make sure that this gets picked up? I feel like I'm doing a lot of this, blah, blah, blah. And he's always been the one in our household who wants a clean house or keeps it tidier. He's the one that does the vacuumings, all of this stuff. I have been I'll do the bare minimum. And so he was saying I think it's funny, you're kind of coming around to my way of life as far as deciding that you want to be in a clean space and have a tidy house and everything. When he said that, my first response was I never didn't want those things. I've always wanted a clean house, but I just the same toys on the floor that I now can go be that's a 30-second pickup. Back then, even 2 years ago, or even again 6 months ago, those toys on the floor felt debilitating. I couldn't make myself go pick them up because I was frozen. And it just felt like that wasn't a priority for me because I didn't even feel like my head and my heart were on a good space. Like I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. I felt frozen in life and frozen in everything. So toys on the floor were literally the least of my concern. Dishes on the counter, I'll get to them later. I think that now I am in a space where I'm getting back to myself. I want a clean space and I want tidiness and routines and all of these things, and it feels really good because I'm not forcing it. It's just happening naturally. Part of that is because I think I'm taking the work or taking action to do the work here to like get better per se. I kind of disagree when people are like, "Oh, if you have this mental illness, like you're not broken." You're not unlovable and you're not unworthy. But the fact of the matter is that your brain isn't working the way it's supposed to. Therefore, it's a little bit broken, and that's okay. I have been broken. Perhaps I'm still a little bit cracked. If you've listened to any of my older episodes where I've been really raw and honest about my postpartum journey, I was full on broken and shattered at certain points. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. We don't have to like make everything feel all nice and cozy, even when it's like really shitty. Sometimes it's just shitty, and that's that. That's all right. So I've talked about the symptoms, the signs, my personal experience in older episodes. Feel free to go look for them. I know the second episode is like my main story about my firstborn, and then I'm pretty sure I did a little bit of a recap after my second as well. But since I think that things are kind of like 95% better, I want to talk about what it feels like to be myself without depression. And maybe if you've gone through this, you can relate. And if you're still in the depths of it, you have something to look forward to, because the number one thing that I can tell you is that it's not forever. Whether it is so good or so bad, it's not forever. Like the depression's going to end, and not being in love with life is going to end. And there's better days coming. I've always held on to the quote, "You have yet to live your best day." And I forget about that quote when I'm really needing it the most. But it is always such an encouraging thing, like an encouraging reminder to me that my best day is still coming, and I don't want to miss out on that. In no particular order, one of the things that I am seeing is as a result of not having so much depression or not having depression anymore, I don't freeze when my kids are calling for me, whether they want help, whether they wanted to play or cuddle. In the past, I've definitely frozen and like been really panicky even. Like I'd go do it, I'd respond, but I would be kind of hesitant and I'd feel like a pinch in my heart, and not because I'm like, "Oh, I love you so much, I want to help out." No, it'd be like someone's putting their boot on my heart and my stomach, feeling like I'm being held back every single time I had to respond to my kids. And it sounds terrible, but I'm like literally just telling you what my experience was there. And I don't feel that anymore. When my kids ask for help, like 80-90% of the time, I am so excited just to respond and be present. If I have a headphone in and they are talking to me, I take it out and I'm like with them. And I set myself boundaries, obviously. Like today, building blocks with my daughter, and I had a headphone in listening to a podcast. I was like a little bit checked out, but still being present as far as the kids knew. And that was what I needed today. It was awesome. Another thing that I don't do as much is that I'm not dissociating anymore. In fact, the other day we were having a rough day for whatever reason. And I could feel myself starting to just like check out, and I couldn't. Like I was sort of checking out, but mostly what was happening was I was trying to figure out like, what have I seen to help me get through this? Like what kind of mantras, or what is an exercise right now? What would I tell my son? That's a big one I'm going through right now. Instead of getting frustrated when he gets frustrated, I am taking all the gentle parenting that I tell him to do, and I gentle parent myself. And then I just posted a TikTok or a reel on Instagram where I was like, no one prepares you for when your kid gentle parents you, because that's been happening where I get frustrated, I express that, and my 3-year-old's like, "It's okay to have big feelings, mommy. You can take some deep breaths. Do you want to tell me about it?" And I'm like, oh my God, you're the cause of my big feelings. Another thing is that I'm still tired physically. That is a pretty common thing, but I'm no longer as emotionally exhausted. And I had written down, I'm not emotionally exhausted from just existing. If you have ever been depressed or especially the postpartum depression, I just feel like they're very similar, but the postpartum is so much heavier because it's not just you that you're trying to take care of anymore. Like you are in a soul contract and obligated to take care of this other human being. When it's just you and you're depressed, it's easy to feel like it doesn't matter. If it's just you, no one else is affected. which is such a lie. That is so wrong. Like, everybody that you know and have ever spoken to is affected when you are depressed. And not that it's your fault, but like, oh my God, I'm spiraling. If you were to do something and it gets to like suicidal tendencies, when you are by yourself and you're not responsible for anybody, it feels cleaner, I guess, to have those thoughts. When you have kids and you're a mom and you're in that postpartum depth of it, you almost start, in my case, I almost started to resent my kids because of my son, because I was like, I can't take myself out of this equation because you need me. And that's not fair to you. But that was literally the only thing keeping me here. So I don't feel that anymore. I wake up tired and I still wake up happy. And that is so amazing. And if you're in that space, I want you to know that you're going to get that one day. You're going to get to wake up and just like not feel dread. You're going to wake up and feel excited for the day and optimistic. And even just like sometimes you're just neutral. And that's a step up from feeling full of dread. Another thing is that I laugh so much with my kids right now. And if you think back to the first little thing I said earlier about like my son laughing and happy to see me, and I felt nothing. I felt numb and felt like it wasn't even worth it. Every single time I have a really good day of laughing with my kids, I think of that version of me. And I remember what I was wearing. I remember standing in front of his crib. I remember his face. Like, I remember that moment so much, where that thought went in my head, because it was just so terrifying. Like, I knew it wasn't a real thought. I knew that wasn't my true feeling. And so now when I get to enjoy the real feelings of like, this is fun and my kids are laughing and they're making me laugh, even when they're being ridiculous. My 3-year-old is in such a gross stage right now, and he's a boy, and it's all farts and like mooning. Like, he literally moons himself in the mirror and thinks it's the funniest thing ever. Every joke is about private parts and butts and farts, and it's just gross. And then my toddler is 15 months old and she acts like she's almost 2. Like, she's climbing everything. She was standing behind the TV the other day. And then 5 seconds later, she's on the table. She wants to do everything to stay up with her brother. And those are things that would typically be so frustrating to me. And I can see how even 3 months later, I'm responding so much differently to them. And I'm having fun with them. And when they fight, I'm responding the way I want to. And that makes me really happy. That is a huge win. The other one is that I cry a lot less. And if I do cry, it's not always about, like, it's not exactly because of motherhood. I don't cry because I'm a mom. I don't cry because I hate being a mom. Like, that's a huge win for me. If I cry, it's because I'm stressed out or overwhelmed with the day. And it's a situation. I just don't blame the kids, I guess, is a really good way to put that. And when you've been through a stage where every tear all day long is something that you blame the kids for, it feels really good just to, like, honestly, it feels good to cry about something that's not my kids. Another one that is a huge change after depression. This is actually a big one for me in just general of like, I'm seeing the light, and not like you're going to Jesus light, but like I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. There was a time that I really desperately wanted to leave this existence. And if everything had ended, I think I would have felt relieved in the moment. But now, if everything was to end, I would be so devastated. Like, I'm not done. I don't have enough time with my kids yet. I love life, even when it's hard, even when it's tough, and I can finally see it for what it is, which is like a constant flow of up and down. It's part of stories and memories and moments and learning, and it's so beautiful. It doesn't always feel like the most exciting life, and yet it's somehow life is exciting at the same time. And there's so much to be grateful for and so much to be present for, and I don't want to give that up. And that, to me, is such a sign of how far I've come. For myself, especially, like, living through my own lived experiences, I don't know if it translates over the mic or if it translates on the page. But if you've ever been through that stage where you've ever just wished for it to go all black, and you think that if something was to happen to you, you'd be a little bit relieved, and then you get to a point where you are actually so happy that nothing's ever happened, and you get to live here and be on earth and experience a human experience, you know what I'm talking about. So if you're going through something right now, I just want you to know it gets so much better. Like, it does. It has to. Imagine that the space you're in is all you've got. That's impossible. You've had good times before, you've had bad times before. Maybe this is the lowest you've ever been, but that means that you haven't yet hit your highest high either. So hang on for that, please. And the very last one that I'm seeing the biggest difference of is the rage, the irritability, my anger, it's still here. I still find that that is the one that holds on the most. And I tend to snap faster. So rather than letting it build out of just like dissociating, I think the dissociating was helping me cut off everything. So like things that would irritate me, they'd still be there. I just wouldn't necessarily register them, or I wouldn't react. Now I will go from being totally fine to like suddenly snapping. But I catch myself as well, and I'm also apologizing and stopping it sometimes in the middle of it, which is huge. The worst I'm noticing, the biggest pattern though, is Fridays at 4 p.m. It's like pick my son up from school, we get home, he's tired, it's been a long week, I'm tired, and that's when it's the toughest to like not freak out and not fall into bad habits. And I also think that this has shown me that my habits really do play a huge role in my mental health, and I think that goes for everybody, right? But things like the house, the cleaning up, you can be depressed and you can still do hard things. And I'm not saying you have to. Sometimes you also need a bed day, but when you have kids, if you don't have that choice of having a bed day, you got to talk to a therapist. You got to do whatever you can to get through, because where I'm at now, life on the other side of this is so much better than I thought it could have been. This is where I imagined before kids. This is where I imagined life would be with kids. And then I had kids and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, this is worst. I've just like ruined my own self and I've ruined my life. And now we're past that. And I'm like, no, actually, I birthed two of the biggest blessings into my life, and I feel so grateful to be here. The overarching message is just that everything is temporary, whether it's really good, whether it's really bad. It's just temporary. It's just like this for now. I said that to myself through my whole labor with my son the first time. Well, yeah, I've only got one son, but my first birth. That was my mantra. I had to be induced and my contractions were coming so crazy. And I held on to that. It's just like this for now. It's just like this for now. It hurt so bad. I couldn't see. I was starting to puke, all these things. And then holding him after that and sitting in the hospital room with him on my chest, I remember looking at him and thinking, it's just like this for now. So soak it up. And thank God I remembered to soak it up in the good moments, because obviously shit got bad after that. So we're good again. I just wanted this to be a little short message for anybody that might be going through some postpartum depression, or if you know of somebody who's going through postpartum depression, maybe send this to them. It's not the end. It's not like this forever. It gets better. I find that with every child, or at least in my experience, I've started feeling a lot better around that 14, 15 month mark. That's amazing. You gotta give yourself time. I just heard of somebody today who had her son 5 months ago. That was her 5th baby, and she is pregnant again already. That is not the recipe for mental success in my books, but perhaps it is for her, in which case, amazing. Love that for her. That is all I have for today, but I just want to say thank you for listening. I'm happy to be here. I'm so happy you're here. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please follow, subscribe. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, again, if you can follow the podcast and like it, everything like that does really help the show, and it helps me know what you're looking for, what you're interested in. Rating it, reviews, huge appreciation for you. You can listen to everything else on Instagram, or to be honest, I never post on the She's Doing All Right Instagram, but it's there. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to put together like content calendars. Mostly though, I'm posting on sarah.g.carter on Instagram and TikTok. So go check those out. I'm so sorry if this was a bit of a drier episode. I'm a little bit exhausted. It's story of my life right now. But as we just discussed, it's just like this for now. And one day I'm going to come on the mic and I'm going to be so happy and energized and bubbly. And that's going to be the normal. And that's what they're all going to be like. And I'm so excited for that day. In the meantime, go find a mirror, look in there, and tell the person in that mirror that you're doing all right. I love you. You should love you. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.